Isn't it extraordinary? I tell you, I wouldn't have been predicting this at the last election, at the last Holyrood election, where I think seeing Chairman Sturgeon at the height of her power there. But the People's Republic of Scotland doesn't seem to be so keen anymore on Nicky Sturgeon. She is, of course, coming up as being Scotland's longest serving First Minister, so she's not to be discounted. She's a savvy political operator, Dan. She knows that if the SNP fight another referendum and lose it, we'd see what we did in Quebec with the separatist cause effectively relegated to being a fringe movement that would get about as much attention, Dan, as Sky News' daily climate change show. But I mean, I think what's going on here, it's quite easily explained. You played that clip there from the SNP conference in which she said she'd initiate the process for a referendum by 2023. I don't think that's actually going to happen here. And I want viewers to imagine how serious that is, because it's a bit like if UKIP won an election, right, and became the party of government, elected on a commitment to give the British people a referendum, and they had got into power and didn't give the people that referendum that they'd promised. The coalition of voters that got it elected would quickly fragment, and that's what I think we're going to see with the SNP, which let's not forget is a single issue party, right? It's a party whose entire raison d'etre, its reason for being, is to deliver Scottish isolationism.
That's certainly not delivering good government.
Exactly, and that's the crucial thing, right? That's the crucial thing, and that's why independence, as you said, Dan, is at number 8 on the list of priorities for voters, with less than a third of SNP supporters saying it's outright a key objective for them. And it's all of the things that you've got to start focusing on. I actually would describe Sturgeon's position as being a little bit like Maggie Thatcher's in her 10th or 11th year as Prime Minister, where you're actually noticing that on everything from this coalition that Nicky Sturgeon's in with the Scottish Green Party, for example, that's alienating those who work in North Sea oil and gas, Dan, working class people in rural areas who are wondering if they're going to be able to use their cars, which they depend upon, because there are massive rural parts of the Highlands, for example. I mean, she's heading to the left on economics, alienating voters there too. There's a drugs crisis in Scotland. There's a healthcare crisis in Scotland. There's a Glasgow hospital under review at the minute. The bulging budget deficit's a real problem. There's a severe education crisis, kids leaving school unable to read and write. I could go on. Storm Arwen, right?
No, exactly. It's a mess. So, Darren, this is my theory. She lines up some job with her Liberal mates at the World Health Organization or the United Nations, and that's her get out. But what's your theory?
Well, look, I mean, she has been one of the biggest cheerleaders, hasn't she, for locking down harder and faster and all of the rest of it. I mean, who knows, right? Maybe she's so enamoured by the Brussels bureaucrats, maybe she wants to be one of them. She's talking about the fact that, you know, at some point with her husband, she might foster a child. So, you know, you can go and live quite comfortably in Brussels, as you well know. But who knows what's going on here? I just think that we're starting to see the beginning of the end, right? Where Sturgeon's desire to spin myths of independence referendums as being even remotely viable are starting to be exposed, and Sturgeon's popularity and polling numbers, you know, at one point she looked almost North Korean. She was so popular. But our dear leader, I think, Dan, ultimately now, and this is absolutely fascinating, is starting to fall out of favour with the Scottish electorate.